Please adhere to YouTube's selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals. Alright, so today I'm going to be drinking Irish whiskey for the first time, which as a whole I am quite excited to do, as I've heard good things about Irish whiskey, and I've heard that it can be a little bit different than what I've tried in the past. As an American, I've mainly only ever tried American-made whiskeys and bourbons previously, but I've heard that Irish whiskey is a little bit different taste-wise and is a little bit smoother and is just quite good in general. And so as such, I've wanted to try Irish whiskey for some time now to find out just what it's like, how it is, and what I think of it. And I figured today is just as good of a day as any to try Irish whiskey for the very first time. And so as such, well, today I'm trying Irish whiskey for the very first time, which as a whole, I am looking forward to doing much more so than not. But what is going to be my first ever Irish whiskey? Well, if you ask me, the most iconic Irish whiskey has got to be the classic variety of Jameson Irish whiskey in the green bottle. And so as such, that's exactly what I purchased at my local liquor store for $17.95 USD. For that price, I got 375 milliliters of whiskey with an ABV of 40%, a proof of 80, and I got a whiskey that has been triple distilled, supposedly for smoothness, and I got a whiskey that has been aged for 4 years in oak barrels, which I figure imparts some amount of flavor into the whiskey as well. Overall, this stuff sounds pretty good to me. I've heard some pretty good things about it, and I am very excited to give Irish whiskey a go for the very first time. But first off, I've got to make sure I cover the look of the bottle just a little bit. Then after that, I'm going to go ahead and get the cap all off. I'm going to go and smell Irish whiskey for the very first time. And once I've done that, once I've figured out what the smell of this whiskey right here is actually like, I'm then going to go ahead and pour some in my glass I've got with me today, and I'm going to take a sip and get to drinking Irish whiskey for the very first time, and I'm going to let y'all know just what I actually think of it. And yeah, that's the plan for today's video. First off, as said though, we've got to go over the look of this bottle. And as we can see, this is very much that of a miniature bottle of Jameson whiskey. It's not like a full, I would have to say like a quart or anything like that kind of thing. This is just a pint-sized bottle, if I do remember correctly. It's not particularly big by any means. And we can see we've just got a very sort of thin top of the bottle, and it kind of just gets a little bit thicker where all the liquid actually is and everything like that. And it's just a very nice round bottle with a pretty elegant design on it. I'd have to say the Jameson design as a whole looks pretty clean, looks pretty nice, and works very well with the green sort of color of the bottle. The green color of the Jameson classic variety is very iconic in my personal opinion, and it is shining through quite well right here as well. But the top of the bottle is not green. Instead, we get a sort of burgundy red metal cap and just sort of like metal sort of thing right here. I don't exactly know the right way of putting it. It's sort of just a metal ring going around the top of the bottle, I do suppose might be the right way of putting it. And on top of the cap, we can see there's some gold text right there. Just says JJ and S, which stands for John Jameson and Sons Limited, which we can see is in text just right there going around the text in the center. And then on the ring right here, we can see in gold, it just says John Jameson right there. And then once again, right there as well. And that's all on that sort of, I would have to say, darker burgundy sort of metal ring, I'd have to say is really the right way of describing what this is. Below that, we can see there's a little bit of the glass right there, and we can see a little bit of the liquid as well, just kind of splashing around. And under that, we can see there is a paper sort of ring right here as well. It's got a dark green background with, I would have to say, bronzish gold lines on the top and the bottom right there. And there's a little bit of a ribbed pattern as well. And we can see it just goes all the way around, has a J right there and a sort of, I would have to say, an off-white, a sort of yellowed old style white right there. It has a trademark text as well. And on the very front, we can see that sort of off-white, that sort of old white right there as well kind of thing. Some gold bronze lines coming down from the top. And we can see there's a little bit of a circle right here, almost looking like a stamp, I'd have to say. And it just says John Jameson and Son Limited, JJ and S, once again with that text being in that sort of old style of white slash yellowed white slash sort of like off-white, I'd suppose. There's a little bit of a gold ring going around the red, and up here we can see there is some green text that is made up of that dark green. And that text just says, distilled, matured, and bottled in Ireland. They're really trying to pump up the fact that this is an Irish whiskey with this bottle. They want to use that as a marketing ploy, and it absolutely makes sense. I would do the same thing with this bottle. It definitely looks much more iconic than not. It's the classic Jameson green bottle after all. The green makes you think of Ireland, and they're really trying to pump up and put Ireland everywhere they possibly can on this bottle. It's a good marketing decision, and it's something that I do respect quite a bit. But that's really all that's going on with this label right here. Below that, we can see we get to the thicker portion of the bottle, which does have a little bit of a sort of divot right here for the label and whatnot, just to make the label sit a little bit more flat on the shelf, I do think. So when it's like sitting like that, you don't have the label like stretching where you can only see half of it. You can see it a little bit better so than not because of this divot, which just makes the label just sit a little bit more flat than it would otherwise, although of course it does still have a slight curvature to it. But we can see the very top of the main label on this bottle has a little bit of a green right there. Then it goes to that sort of off-white, yellowed white, and there's a little bit of a bronze-ish gold line right there. And then under that, it just says Jameson right there in that dark green. And there is a little bit of a sort of like gold bronze drop shadow to the text, which definitely just elevates it a little bit in my personal opinion. Talking about the background just for a moment real quick. From a distance, it really does look like just a blank, just basic off-white sort of background, nothing really too special going on, but there is actually a little bit of texture to it as we can see, and you can feel that texture with your fingers. While I'm not feeling any embossment from the text or from any of the designs on the front, I will acknowledge the background overall does have a very nice texture. Below the Jameson text right here, we can see we get a, I would have to say like coat of arms or some sort of like banner, I'd guess is really the right way of putting it. We can see there's a little bit of a ship up there made up of that goldish bronze with a black border going all the way around it. And then under that, we can see there's a burgundy red sort of flag, and it's got on either side, like I would have to say there's anchors, there's a star on the bottom, and there's like 3 lines on the top with an X going through everything, and that's surrounded by a gold with a black line surrounding that. And then on either side, it just says established 1780 right there, which is when the Jameson distillery, I guess it's a distillery, not a brewery, because if it was a brewery, that would be for like beer or brewed stuff, whereas whiskey is distilled, so it'd be the Jameson distillery was first brought into operation in 1780. And then under all of that, we can see there's a little bit of a ribbon right there that has a background of that gold with a border of that black, and I would have to say a little bit of a shadow of that red, and on it we can see there's some black text, and it just says sign metu. I don't know what that says. I assume it says something in Irish, but I don't know what that means, I will acknowledge. I have no idea what that means. Below that, though, it just says triple distilled right there. I had to look up what triple distillation really meant and what effect it has on the whiskey. Apparently, triple distillation just makes your whiskey smoother and whatnot, so they're really going to be trying to advertise that. So basically, they're just saying this is a very smooth whiskey with that text right there, and that text is made up of that sort of dark green with a pretty thick background of that bronze gold. Then under that, there's a bronze gold line, and then under that, there's more text made up of that dark green. It just says smooth Irish whiskey made the John Jameson way since 1780. And then under that, we get a little bit of a line right there, a little bit of a line right there, and then it just says Irish whiskey right there in the exact same way it says it or it says this text up here. And then under that, it just says product of Ireland. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 times they've mentioned that this is a product of Ireland or that it's an Irish whiskey. They're really trying to bump up the fact that this is an Irish whiskey. Of course, it's a marketing ploy, and I absolutely respect that. They're trying to make this whiskey seem a little bit exotic, and that definitely helps with sales, and I think that helps with sales of Jameson. From what I know, in the United States at least, Jameson is the most widely known and consumed Irish whiskey. I believe it is the most popular Irish whiskey by a pretty decent margin, so obviously the marketing is working. To either side of the product of Ireland text down here, we can see it just says 40% alcohol per volume, 80 proof, and then on the other side it just says 375 milliliters, and then under that it just says a blend. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe it means that this is a blended whiskey. Supposedly this is a blended whiskey, although I don't really know what that means. In all honesty, I'm not that much of a whiskey connoisseur, but if y'all know, let me know what blended whiskey or what a blend actually means. Below all of that, though, we get another gold bronze line, a little bit more of that off-white, and then another dark green right there. And then below that, there's a little bit of the glass, and then we get another dark green line just right there. That doesn't stretch all the way around the bottle by any means. It stops at the same point the main label does, but we just get some bronze gold text. Just says John Jameson right there. This has a little bit of ribbing to the texture of it, and we get a bronze gold line on the top and the bottom as well. Does this have any sort of an embossment? Maybe a little bit of a texture to the sort of cursive John Jameson text, but nothing too crazy by any means. And then below that, we just get some text actually on the bottle itself, which just says 1780 right there. And that is, of course, the year that the Jameson distillery was first brought into production in. And yeah, that's really all there is to the front of the bottle. Overall, a very solid looking bottle in my personal opinion. Definitely does a good job of punching above I'm getting my words all jumbled up. Definitely does a good job of looking classy and kind of punching above its price point in looks-wise, which some people would say is a good thing and some people would say is a bad thing. Personally, I don't mind it, and I've accidentally just kicked my tripod. That's my bad. But overall, if you ask me, definitely a very decent looking, classy looking bottle that does really good with its marketing, and overall a look of a bottle that I don't mind at all by any means. Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the back of the bottle, which is more informational than not. This label has no sort of interesting texture to it or anything like that kind of thing. It really is just informational. It's made up of that sort of off-white, once again, green up top, and a little bit of green down here as well, and all the text on it is that dark green. It just says, learn more about our taste and story at their website, imported by John Jameson, import company, New York, New York, product of Middleton Distillery, Middleton Co., Cork, Ireland. So this is produced in Cork. And then under that, we just get the Surgeon General warning, or just the government warning in general. It's just saying, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcohol. But it does just say the Surgeon General, per the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects. And then after that, it just says consumption of alcoholic beverages impairs your ability to drive a car or operate machinery and may cause health problems. Yep, pretty standard stuff. Really nothing new from that warning by any means. They've got a drink responsibly website as well. The barcode right there. Some stuff about how you're able to get money for the bottle back in certain states, and some other just basic information and whatnot kind of thing. This really is just an informational side of the packaging and of the bottle, and this really is just a just informational label. Yeah, there's really not too much going on with it in all honesty, and that's really what this bottle actually looks like. Is there anything going on the bottom? Oh, there is a little bit going on the bottom. Okay, so there's a little bit of a sort of guy right there carrying, I assume, maybe a bottle of whiskey. That's pretty cool. We've got a little bit of a textured bottom so it doesn't just slide everywhere by any means. And it's got some numbers on the bottom as well, though I don't know exactly what they say. 375 milliliters, I see that. I don't know exactly what everything else means. I think I see 54 millimeters. Maybe that's the size of this bottle. And then I see, I think 5094C. Don't know what any of that means, but yeah, we get a nice little design on the bottom of the bottle. That's pretty cool to see, and yeah, I think that's really all there is to the look of the classic Jameson Irish whiskey in the green bottle. No complaints on my behalf. I do suppose without further ado, I should probably go ahead and crack this bottle open, and I should probably go ahead and actually smell Irish whiskey for the very first time. I've heard it smells and tastes a little bit different than American-made whiskeys and bourbons, which is what I've mainly tried before. I've heard Irish whiskey can have a little bit more of a light and grassy flavor to it. I don't know if what I heard was correct, but that sounds interesting, so I'm wondering if that's the sort of smell I'm gonna get from this stuff right here. Without further ado, let's go ahead and crack it open for the very first time and find out, though. So, let's see. Ooh, that was very satisfying. That was very satisfying. Those cracking noises were super nice. And let's go ahead and get to smelling. Well, I can definitely say right off the bat, this smells like whiskey. It definitely is very recognizably whiskey. But it's a little bit different. The smell is a little bit less potent than what I've been drinking these days when it comes to whiskey. When it comes to whiskey these days, I've been drinking a lot of Evan Williams Bottled and Bond Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey, which is, I would have to say, my favorite American-made whiskey as of this point in time. And that is 100 proof. That's 50% ABV. So that definitely smells a little bit stronger than this stuff without a doubt. And just in general, I've been drinking like a good amount of like 75.5% alcohol these days. So this is definitely just, this stuff smells like so much weaker. It smells so much smoother than what I've been drinking lately. And it overall smells very dang good, if I do say so myself. Due to it smelling a little bit lighter, though, it is a little bit harder to tell what the smell actually is. But overall, I feel like I'm getting a light sort of grain smell, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of vanilla, and overall, yeah, just overall, it's coming across as a smooth smell, one that's not like making my nose pucker by any means. Very just smooth, sort of grain, caramel, vanilla scent. But there's definitely a little bit more going on than just that. What else is going on, though? I'm not sure quite yet. But there's definitely a little bit more going on. Okay, interesting. I might want to get my cup out now and pour some of this in my glass I have with me today. Because sometimes when I pour whiskey and just alcohol in general into a glass, the smell becomes a little bit more prevalent and a little bit different and a little bit more mature, I'd say. So I am thinking I may want to do that. So I'm just going to put the lid back on just for the moment, just so I don't accidentally spill my whiskey everywhere while I'm getting my glass out of my cooler I have with me today. I have, in specific, my Pizza Hut cup, my little mini tiny Pizza Hut cup with me today. It does have some stuff in it, so I'm just going to take my sleeve and I'm just going to kind of clean the inside of it real quick with my sleeve. I feel like that's probably a good idea. I don't want dust all in my whiskey. After all, that does not sound like a pleasant experience to me. Dusty whiskey, no thank you. But looks like I've gotten everything out, no problemo. And let's go ahead and get my whiskey cracked open once again. Excuse me. And let's go ahead and pour some in my glass right here. Yes, sir. You know what I'm saying? First time ever pouring Irish whiskey into a glass. Let's see what the color of it is like as well. And I think I'm going to start with that. If I want more, I can always have more, but I'm going to start with that for the moment. Let's go and put the cap back on. And I'm just going to put that down on the ground next to me. And color-wise, we can see we've got a really nice sort of I would have to say, light gold, sort of almost honey-like color, in my personal opinion. Overall, looks pretty good to me. And smell-wise, this still smells very mild to me. I really think, honestly, just the strength of the alcohol I've been drinking these days has maybe ruined my nose palate just a little bit, because this just smells so mild to me. But smell-wise, it is really very mild. It is an extremely mild scent, and I do wonder if that will come across in flavor as well. I do wonder if this will be really smooth, and that mild scent is kind of letting me know that it is going to be just so smooth. But scent-wise, I really do feel like, yeah, I'm getting that of a sort of grain. And it is not one distinct grain. It's not like distinctly like malt or barley or corn or wheat or anything like that kind of thing. It's just sort of a grain scent. So I'm getting that of a sort of grain scent with a little bit of a caramel vanilla underneath. But I also feel like I'm getting that of a sort of like grassy sort of scent. Not quite like a hay-like scent in my personal opinion, but sort of like just a grassy scent. Maybe it's just my imagination, because I was kind of expecting a little bit of a grassy scent, because that's kind of what I heard some Irish whiskey smells like, so it might just be my imagination, and I'm tricking myself into thinking that's there, because the scent is so mild that I really can't tell what is there to a super full degree. I can really only tell bits and pieces, but maybe that is there. We'll have to find out once I go ahead and take a sip. And I think before I go ahead and take a sip, I want to grab myself a thumbnail real quick. The sun is going to be going down in probably about 20 minutes, so I should probably go ahead and grab myself a thumbnail before I forget to do so, because I have a little bit of a buzz going. So yes, let's go ahead, grab myself just the tiniest bit of a thumbnail real quick if I possibly can. Well, I had to grab myself a little bit of a thumbnail, you know what I'm saying? No complaints on my behalf. Do suppose, without further ado, I should probably go ahead and take my first ever sip of Irish whiskey. And I should probably find out just how Irish whiskey actually is for the very first time, and find out just what the flavor is like, what the smoothness is like, what I think of it as a whole. Do suppose, without further ado, I should probably go ahead and get to drinking now, shouldn't I? I haven't drank any straight liquor in about a week. I'm a little bit nervous. In fact, it's probably been actually more than a week. It's probably been more like 2 weeks, honestly. Yeah. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it, though. If I don't get to it now, I'm not going to get to it, so I'd better go ahead and get to drinking Irish whiskey for the very first time. Without further ado, let's take a sip, and let's find out just what Irish whiskey is actually like. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? Initial impression, quite smooth, a little bit of burning in the back of my throat, really not much, and an overall pretty mild flavor. Pretty mild flavor right off the bat. I took a very small sip, but a bigger sip than I would take if I was sipping on straight Everclear, without a doubt. But yeah, not too bad if I do say so myself. There's somebody's dog right over there. It just ran by. I don't know what they're doing. The dog ran from, like, there's a fence over there, and it ran from behind the fence, and now it's running back. It's running back over. I don't know what it's doing, but it's running. Oh, it's now running kind of in front of me. There's a dog, it's running, it's loose. It's loose and out and about. It's looking for something. Maybe somebody threw a ball and it's looking for something. I don't know. It's coming at me. Nope, it changed directions. I'm staying somewhat wary of it. It does not have a leash on it, so I'm staying just somewhat wary of it. Just because I don't want it coming at me when I have some alcohol in my hand. I don't want to spill my alcohol because a dog decides to jump on me or anything like that kind of thing, I will acknowledge. It looks like a friendly dog, though. But, yeah. that distracted me just for a moment, although I don't mind that distraction by any means. It's always nice to look at cute dogs, I do suppose. Kind of heartwarming, I will acknowledge. Kind of heartwarming. Heartwarming? No. Heartwarming. Heartwarming. Taste-wise, the Jameson Classic Irish Whiskey variety is very mild. It's super mild. I was just looking for additional information online, like when I was doing research for this video, just figuring out all the information I wanted to know about Irish whiskey and whatnot kind of thing. And one thing I heard just over and over and over again when I was doing my research is that the classic Jameson variety is really good, but apparently the Black Barrel is even better. And people were saying it's even better just because it's a little bit higher quality. It's also a little bit more expensive. When I say a little bit more expensive, I mean like double the price of like the 750 milliliter bottle. What was the other thing that people were mentioning? They were saying it was higher quality and that it just had a little bit more of a distinct flavor. And so it was more to their personal preference. And I heard that over and over and over again. And I kind of see what people mean because this is very mild. It's got a nice thing going on, but really trying to pick out flavors and figure out what the flavor of this is actually like is kind of difficult in all honesty. It's definitely more difficult to pick out flavors than most of the whiskeys I've tried from the United States in the past. And I would actually have to say that the flavor of this whiskey is definitely more like a Japanese whiskey than most of the American whiskeys that I've tried previously. Most of the American whiskeys I've tried have a pretty distinct flavor. They might only have like really one or two flavors, maybe there's not a lot going on, but there's an distinct flavor. With Japanese whiskey, on the other hand, at least the ones I've tried, the flavor can be a little bit harder to tell, kind of thing. Can be, not always. I have had one Japanese whiskey with a very distinct flavor one way. But some of the other whiskeys I tried, it was a little bit more mild, a little bit less distinct, and that's kind of what I'm experiencing from the bottle of the classic Jameson as well. So I would definitely have to say this is less like an American whiskey and more like a Japanese whiskey, without a doubt, which I'm not terribly surprised by, I do suppose. I did hear that this was a little bit different from American whiskey, and it makes sense for the difference to go that way. Am I already starting to get a buzz? Maybe I am. I'm not sure. But yeah, wow, extremely smooth. Honestly, I mean, like, this is so smooth. This has got to be one of the easiest whiskeys I have ever sipped straight. Genuinely. This is super easy to sip straight. The burn in the back of my throat is super minimal. It goes away super fast. Sometimes with like 100 proof whiskey, like the burn can just be a little bit too much for me, kind of thing. But this stuff right here is super smooth. It's super mild, super smooth, and it's just, yeah, it's just really smooth and really mild and just really easy to drink. It's super easy to drink. I think just right off the bat that Jameson, the classic variety of Jameson Irish whiskey, would be very solid to mix with. I think the taste would probably dissipate into whatever you're mixing it into very easily. And I also, now that I'm drinking it straight as well, I think it's a great whiskey to drink straight as well, frankly put. It's just super smooth, super easy. Maybe slightly better as a mixer. I haven't tried it as a mixer yet. I do have some carbonated water with me. I'll be trying it as a mixer in a few minutes after I finish this cup, and maybe a little bit more. But not really, really, really easy to drink straight. And due to how easy it is to drink straight and due to how mild the flavor is when you're drinking it straight, I think this is going to be a really good mixer. Yeah, wow. I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. This is smoother than I thought it was even going to be. This is absolutely smoother than I even thought it was going to be. I already thought this stuff was going to be smooth going into this, but it is smoother than I thought it was going to be. Flavor-wise, it really is just so hard to tell, though. I definitely say I'm getting a little bit of caramel, a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of vanilla, and a little bit of a grain flavor kind of thing, but it's so mild that it's very hard to tell if there's anything else in there. And even the flavors I just described are so mild. Yeah. Yeah. Very, 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 very interesting. The mouthfeel is very smooth as well. Not only is the flavor smooth, not only is there not a lot of roughness in the back of my throat, but the overall mouthfeel as well is very smooth and is, I would say, more watery than not. It has a mouthfeel that is more along the lines of like spring water, with a little bit of stickiness to it kind of thing. It's got like a somewhat sticky sort of spring water mouthfeel, in my personal opinion. I've never had I have never had a triple distilled whiskey right next to a non-triple distilled whiskey. But that might be an aspect of the triple distillation. I'm not exactly sure though. But yeah, very interesting, very interesting. And I would say, yeah, the mouthfeel is very much that of a very smooth, almost like spring watery sort of mineral, slightly sticky sort of mouthfeel. And it's just very smooth. I'm not going to say it goes down like water, because it's not that smooth. But it goes down pretty dang easy compared to what I've been drinking lately. Definitely pumping up my resistance to 75.5% Everclear has helped, because 40% used to be very rough to me, and now it's not. Now it's not. But it could also just be this whiskey. It could just be this whiskey is very smooth, because it is very smooth. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Overall, yeah, I would say the mouthfeel is very much that of a slightly sticky, like mineral water, like mineral spring water sort of mouthfeel. Just very smooth, kind of sticks to your tongue a little bit, but goes down easy. And that's very much what the mouthfeel texture is like, if you ask me. The flavor is super hard to pinpoint, though. It is really, 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 really difficult to pinpoint the flavor. I have heard some people say that you can add just the tiniest bit of water into your whiskey, and that'll kind of elevate the flavor. If I can't figure out what the flavor is like with the next couple sips, because I'm going to pour myself a little bit more, because I still haven't figured out what the true flavor is like, I might try that and see just how that is, and see if it really does elevate the flavor. Because I have tried a whiskey and water before. I'll have to post a video on that sometime in the future. But actual just whiskey with just a little bit of water, I haven't tried that. And it was aged for 4 years in oak barrels, so I would totally think there might be a little bit of a woody flavor in there, and maybe there is. Maybe there's a very slight woody flavor in there, but I really can't say anything for sure. Wow, yeah, no, this stuff is very smooth, extremely mild. This has probably got to be the most mild whiskey I've tried in a minute. Just thinking of any other whiskeys I've tried that have been more mild, I would say the High brand name I can't say. That one Japanese brand that sounds like the N-word. Their variety that's called High. That is probably the closest I've gotten in like mildness from a flavor of whiskey, or from a variety of whiskey, not flavor of whiskey. Flavor-wise, that was super mild. Probably second place to the Jameson. But yeah, I'd have to honestly say, yeah, this is probably the smoothest whiskey I've ever drank, and this is probably the most mild flavor I've ever gotten from a whiskey as well. Very interesting, very interesting. Well, let's go ahead and pour myself a little bit more. Just like that. Overall, Jameson, the classic variety. Is it solid? Is it good? I'd have to say it is. I'd have to say it is. I do quite like the classic variety of the Jameson whiskey. No complaints on my behalf, and I'm starting to get a little bit of a buzz going. Got a little bit of a buzz going. No complaints, no complaints. Now that I've been sipping on the whiskey for a minute, though, I mean, like, it's still very mild taste-wise, but I am starting to, I feel like, just since it's sitting on my palate and has been sitting on my palate for so long without a palate refresher, I feel like I am starting to notice some of the intricacies of the flavor. Had to do it to him. I would say there might be a little bit of a woody flavor in there. And I kind of feel like there's a little bit of a grassy flavor in there as well. Maybe. I'm going to drink more. I feel like the more I drink, the more I notice. And that's generally how it goes with most beverages and just foods in general. The more you taste it, the more you notice what's going on with the in-depth of the flavor, or with the depth of the flavor. And I feel like that's definitely what's going on here. But it's taken a little bit longer than normal just because of how mild and smooth Jameson, the classic variety, is. Excuse me. Super easy to drink, though. Like, really, just sipping on this, it's so easy. My goodness. My goodness. I do like it. The Jameson Irish whiskey, the classic variety, is very good. I do really like it. And just right off the bat, it's absolutely a bottle I'd buy again. With no question in my mind. I'd totally buy this bottle again. So I would say the flavor is that of a sort of mildly grassy grain flavor. So it's mildly grassy and then grain. I want to clarify. So I would say the flavor is that of a mildly grassy, sort of just like grass flavor. And then there's a little bit of a grain, a little bit of brown sugar, sort of molasses caramel, a little bit of vanilla. And I feel like extremely mildly under all of that, there is just the slightest bit of a wood flavor. And so overall, I would describe the flavor of this as being a mildly sweet but mainly savory, slightly spicy, grassy, grainy, sort of caramel, brown sugar, molasses, vanilla, woodsy flavor. And in my opinion, that's my final thought on what the flavor of the classic variety of Jameson is like. That's what I think the classic variety of Jameson is like. Yeah, I really do think it is that of a grass and then grain and then a little bit of caramel, a little bit of like brown sugar molasses, a little bit of vanilla, and a little bit of a woodsy flavor. And that's very much what the flavor of the classic variety of Jameson is like, if you ask me at least. That's kind of, yeah, my final thoughts on the flavor right there. But it is extremely mild. It's super mild. It took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to take me to figure out what the flavor is actually like. But that is, in my opinion, what the flavor is actually like. It took a lot of thought. It took a lot more time than I thought it would. But we got a flavor down, y'all. And there we go. That's what I think the flavor of the classic variety of Jameson's is actually like. No complaints, no complaints. Whew. That last sip I took was a little bit rough for some reason. I kind of want to try Jameson as a mixed drink now. Now that I figured out what the flavor of Jameson is like, I want to try it as a mixed drink. So I think I'm going to do exactly that. I have a little bit of carbonated water with me today. A little bit of lemon-flavored carbonated water from Wegmans, to be precise. And I want to see how Jameson does in a whiskey highball, because it's kind of just my go-to standard mixer testing beverage for whiskey. So yeah, let's pour a little bit more in. I think I definitely want a little bit more than that. Let's pour a little bit more in. I go with that for my whiskey highball. And I'm gonna go ahead and crack open my cooler and get my can of carbonated water all out just real quick. And I think I might also have one of these in a minute, because I've been wanting one of these for like the last 20 minutes. But I didn't want to have one because I didn't want to disrupt trying to figure out what the flavor of the Jameson was actually like. I didn't want to interrupt me trying to figure out the flavor. Let's go and crack open my can of lemon-flavored carbonated water from Wegmans real quick. Just like that. And let's go ahead and pour it in. Whew, looks pretty good if I do say so myself. No complaints, no complaints. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take a sip of my first ever whiskey highball made with Jameson Irish whiskey. And let's go ahead and get to drinking, y'all. I could go for some more alcohol. No complaints on my behalf. Let's get to drinking. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's like completely disappears into the flavor of the carbonated water, honestly. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, like, I used about the same amount of whiskey I would use in a normal, like, just whiskey highball that I make, and I could have honestly poured more in. I could have totally poured more in. Like, I poured the amount I usually use for, like, 100 proof whiskey, but, like, this stuff being 80 proof and it just being so much smoother than I'm used to in general, I could have totally poured, like, probably, like, up to here, honestly, and I would have been fine. Yeah, this is very solid, really nice taste. You really cannot taste much. I'm like, you can tell there's whiskey in there, but you cannot taste any of the true flavor profile of the Jameson's Irish whiskey through the whiskey highball. It really is just that of a predominantly lemon flavor due to the lemon flavoring in the carbonated water. And then under that, you could just tell there's a little bit of whiskey in there, but you really can't tell any distinguishing factors about the whiskey. Definitely like with, let's say, with the Evan Williams Bottled Bond, which does mix very well into a whiskey highball in my personal opinion. You could definitely still tell there's a little bit more going on than just lemon-flavored carbonated water and whiskey. You can definitely tell there's a little bit more going on. There's a little bit more flavor with the whiskey going on and everything like that kind of thing. Great mixer, definitely different from the Jameson Irish whiskey. The Jameson Irish whiskey, it's so mild that the flavor pretty much just completely dissipates into the flavor of the carbonated water. And yeah, really the main flavor I'm getting is that of the lemon flavoring from the carbonated water. And then under that, I just taste like there's whiskey in there, because there is whiskey in there, but I can't tell any distinguishing factors about the whiskey. It's just really smooth whiskey. Yeah, the classic variety of Jameson's, honestly, very solid drink straight. Not the most interesting thing in the world to drink straight, but super easy to drink straight. And also a fantastic mixer as well. Just overall, a great product. Not like the greatest whiskey I've ever tried in my personal opinion. But like very, very, very solid, very, very, very good, and absolutely a whiskey that I would not only drink straight again, but a whiskey that I would absolutely buy to make mixed drinks with in the future, no question in my mind. There's a bee, it just kind of flew around and then came over. No complaints, no complaints. Overall, very solid beverage, if I do say so myself. This is a very solid beverage. And Jameson Irish whiskey as a whole is just very solid. As said, I don't consider it to be the best whiskey I've ever tried. It's a classic. It's a base variety of Irish whiskey. And I think it was the right choice for my first ever Irish whiskey, because it's just kind of, I feel like it's kind of a standard level. But definitely in the future, when I try more Irish whiskey, because I definitely will be trying more Irish whiskey in the future eventually, I'm going to go for something a little bit more distinct, something a little bit with a little bit more of a distinct flavor profile. I think is really kind of my plan for the next Irish whiskey I try. And excuse me. Overall, the Jameson Irish whiskey, just due to how mild it is, I can't say, or just due to how mild it is in flavor, I can't say that it's the best whiskey I've ever tried by any means. But it is nonetheless very much up there. I do really like it, and it is very, very, very solid stuff as a whole. I really like the classic variety of the Jameson Irish whiskey. It's really good stuff. This is very solid. It's not the best thing I've ever had when it comes to whiskey. It's just too smooth, not too smooth. I really like the smoothness. It's too mild in flavor for me to really say that it's my favorite, because it's just not distinct enough, I think is really the right way of putting it. But the smoothness, the overall, just even without the details on the flavor profile is quite nice. And just overall really easy sipper, really easy mixer. Just overall a very solid product that I'm trying to think of a rating for right now. The Jameson classic variety of whiskey from Ireland is very solid stuff. I quite like it without a doubt. It's definitely, no question in my mind, a whiskey that I would buy again in the future. A whiskey that I'm going to enjoy drinking the rest of the bottle of as well. And it is just a very good alcoholic drink as a whole. The Jameson classic variety of Irish whiskey, very solid. Very, very, very solid in my personal opinion. Not the greatest whiskey I've ever had, but very solid nonetheless, and it deserves a very solid rating of... I'll give it like a low 8 out of 10. I'll give it like a low 8 out of 10. I think a low 8 out of 10 is definitely deserving for the classic variety of Jameson Irish whiskey kind of thing. Like for me, the Evan Williams Bottled and Bond is like a high 9 out of 10. Like let's say the Suntory Old is like a solid 7 in my personal opinion, with the high brand I can't say because it sounds like the N-word. With that variety being like a solid like high 7. Like let's say the Four Roses small batch bourbon, that's like just a solid like middle of the road 8 kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, like I would have to say like Mellow Corn in my opinion is like another solid 8. I would say that this is probably in my top 5 whiskeys I've tried so far. I haven't tried a lot of whiskey, granted. I have not tried a lot of whiskey. But I would say that the classic variety of Jameson, right now at least, as of the recording this video, is in my top 5 whiskeys. It's probably like number 4 or number 5, something like that kind of thing. Did I really let this go out? Can y'all believe me? I can't believe me. I actually can, because I just did it now, didn't I? It is getting a little bit chilly out here, though. The sun's starting to go down. It is a beautiful day, but it's getting a little bit chillier. I was a bit warm earlier. It was like a high of like 70 degrees, and I'm wearing like thermals and like a thermal top under this sweater. So I was a bit warm like at the beginning of this video, but over the course of this video, it's gotten chillier and chillier, and now I'm like wearing the perfect clothing like for this weather. So I got no complaints, but I got to finish this off, and I got to finish off my drink, and finish off the video, I do think there's not really much else for me to say. Is there anything else I wanted to mention? I've given Jameson a rating. It's a very solid, like, low to mid 8 out of 10, in my personal opinion. Very solid beverage, if I do say so myself. One I would absolutely purchase again in the future, and one that I'm absolutely going to enjoy drinking the rest of the bottle of. Very smooth, super mild taste, but it's going to be a great mixer because of that. Just overall, a solid beverage. The Jameson classic variety of Irish whiskey, very solid beverage, if I do say so myself, and one that I am absolutely enjoying drinking today. No complaints, no complaints. That was quite good, if I do say so myself. I think that was my final drink of the video. And so now I just got to finish off this, and I'm all good to go. Yeah. I got to take a little bit of a piss, not going to lie. I do got to take a piss. After this, I'm going to clean up. After I finish up the video, I'm going to clean up and go take a piss, because I got to take a piss. Yeah, definitely having a little bit of alcohol, sitting here for almost an hour, and just drinking drinks in general, because I had some water before the video and stuff like that kind of thing. Definitely, I need to piss. I need to piss, so I'm going to go use the Porta-John and enjoy my experience there to the fullest extent, hopefully at least. Hopefully it's not a bad experience. I have had bad experiences in Porta-Johns before. I've walked into a Porta-John before, and it was like filled up to the, it was filled up to the seat, and I was like, bro, that's so gross. I was like, oh my God. Maybe that's TMI. I'm sorry if y'all are eating right now. But, excuse me. Yes, that was a disgusting Porta-John filled up all the way to the seat. Oh my God. I'm sorry if y'all are eating right now. That has got to be the most disgusting Porta-John I've ever been in. It was horrible. Thankfully, the ones where I'm at right now are not that bad, though. They're pretty nice Porta-Johns, generally speaking. Excuse me. I think I emptied out like once a week or so or something along those lines, which tends to work out pretty well. But yeah, overall, do I like Irish whiskey based off this one experience at least? I'd have to say I do. Do I want to try drinking more Irish whiskey in the future? I'd have to say I do. And did I just enjoy this experience in general? I absolutely did. Drinking Irish whiskey for the first time today was a fantastic time. And it was an experience that I'm very glad that I had. Gotta admit, no complaints on my behalf. I've had a great time today. I'm gonna go and finish this off. And now, once I stub it out, I do think it is time for me to finish off the video. Appreciate y'all watching today's video where I drank Irish whiskey for the very first time. I had a great time today, and I hope you guys have had a great time watching. If you guys have, of course, like, subscribe, check out everything in the description down below, and I do suppose, until the next one, stay safe and peace, and have a great one.